So that brings us to number 28, another one of my buddies, Joel Haas. Left hand up. Who are we? The Commanders. I think we're going to be a little more positive on this one because even though I think they're still in a tough spot, I think they made a lot of nice moves. They bring in Dan Quinn as the head coach, who mixed bag, rough end to his Atlanta tenure, but it was a strong Atlanta tenure. Very successful defensive coordinator, although his defenses tend to collapse in the playoffs, as we saw last year. But he comes in, he's an experienced head coach, and then Cliff Kingsbury spurring the Raiders to become the Washington offensive coordinator. I think that's exciting, and I think that's actually a big, big deal for this team, and it's a reason I think that they can be better than the Giants. They can be better than the Saints. What did you think? We'll start here. Number 2 pick in the draft, Jaden Daniels coming out of LSU. What do you think about his fit in Washington here? And they had a lot of issues last year, but I think they've kind of improved the supporting cast. So how do you think Jaden Daniels might fare in the NFL?
So for me, Jaden Daniels, as I mentioned, he's what really stood out to me about this team, about why I think they're going to be a little better than some might originally believe, is because to me, out of the teams we've discussed so far, I think he's by far the most dynamic quarterback and might be the best. Besides, I think Bryce Young, I do think Bryce Young's going to take that lead. He's going to be the best quarterback out of the teams we've discussed so far. He's dynamic. He's got a good arm. He can run like no one else can. It's insane. And I really like the weapons they have. They have Terry McLaurin, who's underrated. No one talks about him, but he's always putting up consistent good numbers, 1,000-yard seasons. Jahan Dotson, he's our guy from Penn State, hasn't shown everything that he can do, but if he can really break out, that's good for him. The running back room is serviceable. I like Brian Robinson. Austin Eckler's fine as the backup, although he looked rough at times last year. So we're kind of going to see what that. I don't think their O-line's terrible. Sam Cosme, he's been really good, randomly.
We talked about him when we did the All-Pro teams, yeah.
Yeah, his PFF ranking was insane for someone who doesn't get a lot of name brand recognition. But yeah, I really like what the offense can be, especially with Kingsbury, because Kingsbury, a lot of people point out, terrible head coach, but I think he's going to be better in a reduced role of OC, and I think that having a player who's of similar mold to Kyler Murray is going to be great for him and for the team as a whole in the offense. I think they're going to be at least more dynamic than any of the other teams we've seen so far.
Completely agree. I like this offensive makeup. I'm a big Brian Robinson fan. I think he's due for more carries. And I think, the Commanders were running, an ancient offense the past couple of seasons. I think Cliff Kingsbury is going to very much make use of Brian Robinson. And then Eckler, like you said, he looked really cooked as a runner, as an athlete. But the thing about him is his pass catching has always been what he excels at. And people have pointed out that that's an important part of the Cliff Kingsbury offense, is that type of third down back who can, if Jaden Daniels needs to dump it off, if he's, not able to evade the pressure, Austin Eckler might be there. Whether or not he has enough to even get on the field in that role, we'll see, but they signed him for cheap. I think it's a fair flyer. Terry McLaurin, I think, people have been talking about how D-Hop was used under Cliff Kingsbury. I don't think McLaurin is D-Hop, but I think he's proven with all the crappy quarterbacks he's had over the years that he is a good player. So could he be in line for even maybe his best season yet? We'll see. I don't think it's impossible. I guess it's just hard for me to envision him in that spot just because he's been consistently the 12th, 13th, 14th best receiver, but maybe this is the year he steps up. And like you said, the O-line, I agree. They brought in some veterans, Tyler Biadasz from Dallas, Nick Allegretti from Kansas City. These are guys who have started for playoff teams. The interesting thing will be Brandon Coleman, rookie, third-round pick, currently in line to play left tackle. Jaden Daniels, people talk about even though he's a great athlete, he's also prone to, succumb to some big hits because he puts himself in some risky positions. With a rookie left tackle as well, I don't love that, but Jaden Daniels is also a great scrambler, obviously. So we'll see. Maybe that's a non-issue. Maybe Brandon Coleman is one of those, Rashawn Slater types who can come in and be an impact starter right away, but Rashawn Slater is also a first-round pick. That's an example. So I don't know. Maybe probably not a great comparison there, but it's not impossible for rookies to hold down the fort on the O-line. And then you said before the pod that the defensive line for this team has kind of made a quick resurgence after it kind of, fell back down from its normal standing the last season. What do you see from this defense as a whole? They made a lot of draft picks and signings.
Yeah, for me, I think they just had some solid additions. I think, of course, the D line has always been good. You know, Payne and Jonathan Allen, they're excellent. Probably one of the better defensive tackle duos in the league. I really liked the Johnny Newton pick. I mean, we saw in the Illinois Penn State game, that guy disrupts the game like nobody's business. I loved that pick for them. I think it's great. Durant Armstrong, he's pretty decent. He's pretty solid, all things considered. You know, Frankie Lulu, Dante Fowler, also very decent, edge rushing linebackers. I think those are also great pickups for the team. I think Bobby Wagner, although he's been cooked like the past 3 seasons, he provides a good veteran presence in the middle of the field, and hopefully he's going to help, just like from a leadership standpoint, even if he's not the best starting middle linebacker out there anymore.
Right.
I like some of the additions they made. Their secondaries where I'm a little concerned, but I also still really like the Mike Sainristil draft pick. I think he was great. I like the Jeremy Chin pickup, and Emmanuel Forbes. I know he's getting cooked even still in training camp right now, but he has the tools. He's a long-rangey corner. He's got the tools to be good. So if he can figure it out,
Yeah.
he's a solid number one.
I think Sainristil is going to help Forbes a ton because it's rare that you have a guy who is hyped up coming into the draft. It's like, no, you got to get this guy. He's going to be an excellent slot corner. We saw it with Trent McDuffie, but a lot of the slot corners start out as outside guys and have to transition. But like Sainristil is coming in as like, this guy's going to be an excellent slot corner, and you need that. Someone that Forbes probably won't have to worry about as much is someone like CeeDee Lamb in these divisional matchups, things like that. Forbes, like you said, he was a first-round pick. We'll see what happens because he was really bad as a rookie, but St. Just as well as a solid enough player. I mean, this secondary was horrible last year. It was the worst pass defense in the league. But you bring in Jeremy Chin, who's more of like play the box type safety, but Derek Forrest was also not healthy last year, so he's going to be back in there. We'll see how it shakes out, and Bobby Wagner, like you said, he's his pass coverage skills have left him. He's not the athlete he was, but at least he's still racking up a ton of tackles. He'll probably get an illegitimate Pro Bowl vote, but that's okay. I mean, like you said, the veteran leadership's important. And yeah, that D-line, the defensive line is still going to be really, really solid. And Fowler, Armstrong coming over with Quinn from Dallas. So I like the defense in terms of the pieces. They just have to put it together. But the foundation is there. It's really going to come down to, so someone people have kind of compared Jaden Daniels to, we saw Anthony Richardson last year in that first month. People were like, he's going to be raw. It's going to take him a while. Jaden Daniels is a lot older than he was. Maybe not the physical freak Anthony Richardson is, but still, a pretty athletic, impressive quarterback. So can he kind of do what Richardson did earlier in the season and kind of make something out of this offense and start having them compete? Obviously, Richardson got injured, but you don't want to see that from Daniels. So I don't know. For me, I think this team, there's a world where they win like 6 or 7 games, but that's if everything goes right. Like, what do you think, to wrap up on them, like, what do you think Jaden Daniels as a rookie looks like? Like, I think obviously he has the talent, but do you think the improvements they've made can do enough to put a quarterback like him in a position to win, or do you think it's going to be still a rocky road to start?
I think he's definitely in a better position to win than some other quarterbacks we've talked about already. As long as he can go this season without any major injuries, hopefully none at all, but avoiding any major injuries can be huge for him as long as he continues getting the time he needs to develop, because I think he's one of the more pro-ready rookie quarterbacks to me, just because of his scrambling ability and the arm talent. So worst case scenario, he can chuck it up or he can scramble, right? Like it was the same thing people said about Richardson. Was people worried about the accuracy, but at the very least, he has the arm, he has the athleticism to keep things going worst case scenario. So I think Jaden Daniels is the same thing. He has to avoid what happened to Anthony Richardson, which is avoid the injuries, which isn't obviously Richardson's fault either. But as long as he can avoid those and he can take the year to play and develop, I think that's huge for him. And I think that's why he's in a good position, because so far, like you said, they've laid the building blocks for an improved team in the next few years.
Absolutely. And the thing with them is, like, they play the Giants twice, they play Carolina, they play New Orleans. Like, they clean up business against those teams. All of a sudden, you just got to upset like one team, then you're like a 6-7 win team. So